I am Divya. I am a bioinformatics scientist at Second Genome, and then also I serve as the programming chair, or one of the programming chairs for WIB, and who works with the amazing team at WIB to bring together these events. We're gonna go through a very quick spiel from my end, and then I will never present it in Zoom. So let's see how this works. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So first out, I'd like to give a big shout out to Deborah at Antibody. She played a very important role in bringing together our amazing panelists for this panel on antibody discovery. So thank you, Deborah. I think I saw your name somewhere pop up. Hopefully it's cool. Yeah. And then I would like to thank all our awesome panelists. Thanks for spending time, not just today, but on multiple days before this for us to kind of get together, come up with topics we want to discuss, and kind of really put together this awesome panel together. I will leave it to Judy in a little bit to introduce our panelists. Since we have people from, let's see, Okay, I think my slide's moving, but let me know if it's not. Apparently it won't let me both see people and see slides at the same time. Okay, so for those of you who are either to who this is the first WIB event or are new to WIB, I just wanted to give you a quick introduction on what WIB is. So WIB stands for Women in Bio. There are several chapters across the country. The Bay Area chapter is definitely a very active chapter. We do a range of events through the year, from networking events to amazing panel discussions such as this one. And like the rest of the world, we've been pivoting to online events and learning the ropes as we go with this new world we live in. So thanks a lot for joining us for this online panel event. And hopefully it's as interesting to you as it was fun for us to put it together. Before I go into today's panel itself, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Nectar, Lyle, Illumina, and CliniSpace, for really supporting us through all of these and in general, and helping us put together these awesome events. Some quick housekeeping notes. As we all navigate this new virtual world, some quick Zoom rules, if you will. So when the panel is going on, we suggest that all of you mute yourself and then also turn your videos off. This allows everyone to kind of just focus on the panelists, so it's a little easier to get messages across and things like that. If you want to know how to do it, it's just turn those two bottom buttons at the mute symbol and the video symbol off. However, when you are asking a question, or when we go into the networking phase of this, or when you're having one-on-one conversations, just to make it more personalized, we suggest you actually turn your video on, so that way it's a little more one-on-one and not as virtual as it is. Feel free to introduce yourself, put your LinkedIn profile, anything else you'd like to add in the chat window on your right. You can also add questions on the chat window on your right. The Women in Bio team will help kind of keep track of these questions and punt it to the panelists towards the end. That said, we will have time towards the end of the panel discussion to kind of have questions you might have to the panelists there. A little note on personalizing your kind of Zoom avatar. When your video is turned off, feel free to kind of like right click on your picture and then, either change your picture, change your name, what have you. Someone just gave a nice how-to on turning on virtual backgrounds. So feel free to do that if you want to virtually be in a beautiful beach in Hawaii instead of we are. Again, as I said, definitely take the chance to put your LinkedIn profile a lot. As we are transitioning to virtual events, it definitely helps to have opportunities to connect with people like you will in a real networking session. Finally, kind of today's agenda and wrapping up with what a breakout room is. So we will have the panel discussion for about 45 minutes. And then in the last 30 minutes to kind of simulate a networking sessions, and also for everyone to have more one-on-one time with a panelist, we'll be doing these Zoom virtual breakout sessions. Lee will help us break us all up into smaller breakout rooms. So these will probably be rooms where each room has maybe around 10-ish people. Each room will have one of the panelists and also one of the WIB volunteers to, you know, kind of help guide things through. But basically here the opportunity is for you to really talk to the panelists, and not just the panelists, like the other members in the room, to try to get to know each other more and get some networking in there. As a reminder, again, do turn on your videos and turn on your audios when you're in this breakout session, as that definitely helps personalize the conversation a lot. You don't have to do anything to join a breakout room, really. I think it will give you kind of that screenshot what you're seeing on top to say join the breakout room. Just click on that and you'll join it. And then there will both be a virtual warning from Zoom when the breakout rooms are ready to wrap, but also from the WIB volunteers who are in each of your rooms to help kind of wrap up the chat. With that, I am going to wrap up. Again, thanks to our panelists, and also a quick shout out to all the women in bio volunteers who helped put this together. So Lee, Caitlin, and then shout out to Martina, Melina, and Meej for kind of helping us host the breakout rooms. That's it. With that, I'll say, take it away, Judy.
Thank you so much, Divya, for the introduction. And I really love the way this whole thing started. We just kind of hung out for a while, but here we go. For everyone joining us, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Judy Lynch-Kenny. I'm the co-founder and CFO of Antibody Solutions in Santa Clara, California. And I'm coming to you live from our salon. I'm really happy and excited to introduce our Amaze Balls, our Amaze Ovaries panel. First, we have Kat Harris, Senior Director of Discovery at Teneo Bio. We have Heather Schwobel, Vice President of Business Development at Alloy Therapeutics. We have Jennifer Samara, Project Manager and my colleague at Antibody Solutions. And we have Vanessa Soros, Director of Antibody Discovery at Tizona Therapeutics. I'm so glad. It's been so fun getting to know these ladies. And here we go. We'll get started. Question numero uno. And there's a little warm-up. Antibody discovery is a process. Our panelists represent companies that are involved throughout that process. I'd like each panelist to speak to their experience in antibody discovery in the pre-pandemic world. Heather, you're at the beginning of the process. Would you start us off, please?
Sure. Thanks, Judy. It's really nice to be here. Thank you for including me. I'm probably the only non-scientist on the panel today. My entree to biotech was supporting the biotech investment team at Atlas Venture for about a decade at the beginning of the century. And then I went on to be the first hire at Harbor Antibodies. I spent 4 years there. I went on to work at another biology company, Verso Therapeutics, working on macrophage biology, and found myself at Alloy 2 years ago. All of the companies that I've worked with since being in biology have been antibody-related companies, either pursuing pipelines of antibodies or helping other companies to generate antibodies. So that's where I find myself now at Alloy. We call ourselves an aggregator of foundational platform tools. What that really means is we're bringing together platforms that we think should be democratized and made broadly available. And the first platform that we're doing this with is a suite of humanized transgenic mice, which you immunize them with your target of choice, and you use them to find potential antibody therapeutics. So that's what we're doing. We're providing a discovery tool to the industry where people who work with us can work with the platform in-house. They can choose a certified CRO partner such as Antibody Solutions. So of course, not everybody has a wet lab. We have a discovery services organization, but we work well with all aspects of antibody discovery, and we're really excited to tell you all about it.
Great. Jennifer.
So my name is Jennifer, and I'm a project manager at Antibody Solutions. And I actually transitioned recently into my new role about 6 months ago, around a month before everything hit the fan. And I work with customers and helping them navigate the antibody discovery process, as well as managing our catalog antibody sales. Previously, I worked in the cell biology department at the same company as a supervisor for 10 years. And before that, I was a research associate for several years. Most of my experience is cell culture based and includes generating and culturing hybridomas, producing monoclonal antibodies, and FACS sorting. So Antibody Solutions has been in the antibody discovery business for about 25 years. And we approach each target from our perspective as antibody generation experts. We see each client as a science partner and want to perform high quality work so that we get what they need. Our focus has become custom therapeutic antibody discovery, and what sets us apart from other companies is our animal-based platform for antibody discovery, the hybridoma library platform. And we have found that to be the most robust option for producing antibodies. However, we have also used other approaches such as single B-cell sorting and display libraries. We also perform services for many kinds of antibody discovery, such as CAR-T and critical reagent.
Great. All right. Kat, I think you're next up.
All right, great. So, first off, just want to say thank you for the Women in Bio group for organizing this and giving us the opportunity to be here to discuss these topics, both antibody discovery as well as is it possible to mute? I don't know what the noise is coming in.
Yes, everyone, can you please make sure you're muted?
Sorry. Really,
yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, Catherine.
So sorry.
That's okay. But I'm a senior director at in antibody discovery at Teneo Bio. I actually started my scientific career at UC Berkeley. I got a PhD in molecular biology and genetics. And I've worked a lot with small companies in my career starting off. Prior to Teneo Bio, I was at Active Motif and Switchard Genomics, where I focused primarily on developing a functional genomics platform for small molecule screening. So I come from more of a screening background. About 5 years ago, I joined Teneo Bio just as they were starting their lab operations. This was back in 2015, and I really had the opportunity to build an antibody discovery pipeline from the ground up, because they were really starting from scratch in building this company. They have a transgenic rat platform. So we have a rat that makes human antibodies. So when we immunize with a target of interest, this animal makes human antibodies against that target that we can then use in antibody therapeutic molecules. The thing that's unique about this animal, called the unirat, is that it makes heavy chain only antibodies. So there's no light chain. And if you think about just a domain as being a VH region of an antibody, kind of a domain antibody being responsible for binding, that unit or that domain antibody is doing all the binding. So we can take, different domain antibodies and link them together in strings, or leave them on an FC, or put multiple ones on each arm for multivalent antibodies. And that's really what the basis of Teneo Bio's platform is really this multi-specific antibody therapeutic platform with the flexibility to make bispecifics and multispecifics without having to worry about things like heavy and light chain pairing or scFv formats. So it simplifies the process of making bispecifics or multispecific antibodies. I was really able to use my knowledge from this functional genomics and small molecule screening background to help create and manage a high throughput sequence-based discovery pipeline at Teneo Bio. And there's a lot of different ways to make antibodies and screen antibodies, and we prefer to do the sequencing up front. So we actually do antibody repertoire sequencing of all of the antibodies in a given animal. And that's how we start off with our library that we're going to screen. It's actually coming out of the rat and is sequence defined from the beginning. There's a lot of advantages to this approach in that it's very unbiased. We're able to get rid of sequence liabilities early and focus on being able to screen a broad variety, a very diverse set of antibodies right off the bat, and knowing that diversity ahead of time because of the NGS sequencing that's been done. This pipeline has already generated, like I said, we started Teneo Bio in 2015. We have our first molecule in the clinic, our BCMA CD3 bispecific antibody that came out of this sequence-based approach. So obviously finding success and rapid development of therapeutics.
Wow, very good. Thank you. Vanessa, it's your turn.
All right, thanks. I'm Vanessa Soros. Actually, Catherine and I have, I think, a lot of similarities in some of our background, actually, and we've worked together before, together too. So I actually did my PhD in Toronto, my hometown, in cellular and molecular biology, and I came out to San Francisco to continue pursuing HIV research, which is what I was doing in my PhD. From there, I moved into industry and really into protein engineering. And the first two companies I worked for were platform companies. The first one, an antibody platform company, and very similar to what Catherine was just discussing about bispecifics. We actually had a surrobody platform to enable bispecifics. From there, I moved on to engineering proteases, so re-engineering them to have different catalytic properties. And that was also a platform company. So from there, I moved to Zona, and I'm a director of antibody discovery. It is not a platform company, so we're platform agnostic. I've actually worked with hybridomas, high throughput sequencing, phage display, yeast display, straight up engineering, everything. So we're an IO focused company. So really it's the target biology that's driving whatever system we choose for discovery. We do have some in-house discovery capabilities with phage display, but I work with a lot of CROs, including everyone here. And yeah, it's really the biology of our targets, and our targets are sort of all over the place in terms of what their different biological difficulties or challenges are. So that's how we pick the platform for discovery. And again, I had a really great opportunity at Zona to not just come in and lead discovery, but actually build the entire team and build out what our capabilities are. And so we get to participate not just in the therapeutic, target validation, designing the campaigns, running them, executing them, but actually doing lead optimization, developability studies, straight through cell line development, and then supporting all sorts of CMC activities to drug release activities. So it's really great. That's it.
Great, thank you. So we're covering a lot of bases in antibody discovery here. We really have a wealth of knowledge on this panel. But then enter adversity. COVID-19 changes everything overnight. What difficulties have you encountered and how have you adapted? And I'm not going to pick on any one person, but I want everyone to talk.
I'll go first. The immediate problem was suddenly having the lab shut down. So just trying to make things happen. We have a molecule in the clinic. We were preparing for an IND. We have our ongoing pipeline research. So suddenly having everything just shut down was really difficult. So coming up with a plan for how we would reopen the labs safely became, imperative. And to be honest, I quickly pivoted to finding CROs in other areas that were not shut down. And weirdly, China was one of those places. So I ended up outsourcing quite a bit of work right at the start of COVID here.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we had a very similar experience. You just get this shutdown order from the county, and what does that mean for us, right? So initially it was a knee-jerk reaction to kind of shut everything down, and then as we learned a little bit more about the fact that biotech companies are essential work, right? We're healthcare. For Teneo Bio employees, we're mostly working on immuno-oncology drugs. Like what I like to tell my team is, unfortunately, people don't stop dying of cancer because we have a COVID-19 pandemic. We have a responsibility to our patients and to the people that we're trying to help to continue on our efforts as best as we can despite the COVID-19 pandemic. So we switched pretty quickly also to the, whoever's jobs were not necessary for lab operations should not be in the lab, should not be in the office. If you can work from home, work from home. For the portions of your job where you don't have to be in the lab, do that part at home, right? Distance yourself from people, but then moving to shift work and kind of figuring out what that looks like. I mean, that was a really challenging couple of weeks, and not knowing how long this was going to last. I think in the beginning, we thought maybe this would just be a couple of week thing. And when it became clear that this was a longer term problem, I think that's where there was this shift from kind of short-term thinking to long-term planning, right? You're reacting versus planning for a longer period of time. And that switch was really important for us in terms of being able to schedule people in the lab, allow them to distance each other, open up the lab and basically say it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, incredible flexibility for you to be able to work and distance yourself from others and still maintain the work that needs to be done at Teneo, but do it in a fashion that's as safe as possible for employees. And I think that was really what we ended up moving towards, but definitely those first couple of weeks were really hard. Mm-hmm. And then for me, being a work from home person, like switching from, being in the office every day to being at home and being on virtual meetings, I mean, that was really a challenge to learn Zoom and Microsoft Teams and all of these virtual platforms at the same time as having my children home because school also closes, right? So I think those are just the high level challenges that I think that most of us have faced in one flavor or another.
Immediate challenge that I had was, well, there were so many, and I can talk about a few of them, but the first one was we were in a hiring process. I had been in a BD team of 1 for the past year and a half, and we're coming up on having 50 partners, and so it was just not tenable for us to stay as one person. So we were pretty far down the line, and I think the national emergency was declared on the 13th. I was supposed to fly to California to meet my lead candidate on the 15th, and then decided, anything could happen in the next couple of days. I'm not going to get myself trapped on the other side of the country. So we actually hired someone to work for Alloy covering US West and Asia completely remotely. I've never met him. He's super nice. He's doing a great job. But so now we have a team member who's, however many thousands of miles away from where all of the rest of us are. And it's all of the things you can imagine about staying connected, helping him learn the company culture, helping him feel like he has all the resources that he needs. It's been probably a little bit more effort than had we been able to sit in the same room.
So I mentioned earlier I was transitioning to a new position at the start of all this. So everything was kind of very unexpected. My colleagues and I were kind of worried about how to keep the projects going. But as Kat mentioned, biotech was an essential business and we were able to stay open. And we were able to put a plan in place so everyone could work safely and also maintain full operations in the lab. So I think actually non-lab personnel are working from home partially. So I'm in the office about 2 days out of the week. So the transition has been kind of difficult in ways. I was used to working in the lab where the workload was predictable. I was able to make my own hours. And even though I worked long hours, I never had to work from home because that part of the job stayed here. But as a project manager, you take the work as it comes and you communicate with clients and managing their projects. And most of the time, work is dependent on a response from someone in order to move on to the next step. And since I'm on different schedules from my colleagues, it was kind of difficult trying to learn on the fly at times, but they've been really responsive via phone and email. And we have a 4-year-old daughter at home, and I've been working at the dining room table whenever I'm home, which is not very comfortable, but that's how I can watch her do her thing. I guess another challenge is sometimes there's technical issues with connecting to the VPN and accessing the server from home. It's not as snappy as being here. But I think we've all adapted so far, and we're still doing the work to make the projects keep moving forward.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have anything they want to add to that?
I mean, the other thing I might add would be the, just the importance of self-care too. I feel like one of the big challenges when we first started this, again, is when you're reacting to that problem of being at home and being isolated or just being off routine. The gyms are closed, just that importance of self-care and mental health and, giving yourself time to take breaks. I think it took me a couple weeks to realize, and possibly a couple pounds going up on the scale, before I realized that I wasn't at my normal level of activity. And also I wasn't ever leaving the house. And I think part of it was just that initial shutdown fear of kind of locking down and staying put, and realizing, it's actually really important. I know I can't go and do the things I would normally do, go to the gym or even go to the office, but I can still walk to the park. I can still go out and be active and go on bike rides with my kids and do those types of things. And I think that was really important to something that I learned probably about April, mid-April maybe. But just kind of a positive note there. For me, I've gotten up for where I couldn't run a half a mile to starting off doing, mile run Wednesdays is what we called them at my house with my boys. They're 11 and 13. They were doing mile runs in school. And I'm like, we still have to do PE. So we're going to go out and do mile runs on Wednesdays. And I worked up to being able to run a mile with my boys. And now I'm running 5Ks. So I think that there's something that you still can set these goals for yourself, but also maybe it's not a 5K, maybe it's something else for you. But I think finding what helps you feel better. And 30 minutes outdoors every day became something I needed to schedule on my calendar and actually block time out for.
Excellent.
Catherine, that's awesome. In fact, we had a discussion last night. This is Christina. We talked about how the kids have to run a mile in school. My husband and I stared at each other and went, oh my God, we have to start running. We thought about starting tonight. And then this morning we were like, no, we can't start today. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll start tomorrow. It's a very real thing. And
yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, no, and for us, it was picking a day, like having it be part of the schedule. So Mile Run Wednesday was a thing. And, I made sure that I had nothing on my calendar before 9 a.m. and we'd get up and we would go. And there was no discussion about it. It was just Mile Run Wednesday.
Excellent.
Catherine, are your kids bigger than you? Because mine is, and I'm like, hey, we're going to go for a run. Like, no, we're not. Yes, we are.
Yeah, I've still got 2 inches on my 13-year-old.
I've lost about 4 inches on mine.
It's coming.
Not being a scientific team member, I'm not allowed to go into the office. And there was this weird emotional thing, like, is there some proximity bias here? Like, am I missing out on conversations that are happening in the office? And you have this, my company, our founder talks about this pronoia thing that he tries to promote. And it's pronoia is the fear that someone is saying something good about you when you're not watching. And I think all of us are naturally predisposed to have the opposite. And so I started worrying, with the scientific team, they have to go into the office. Is there kind of a well of resentment building because I don't have to go into the office? And what am I not missing? What am I missing? It turns out that, everyone's happy that everyone's in the office as little as possible. I just had to communicate with the team and make sure that everything was going well. Nobody's socializing in the office. Everyone's far flung when they have to be at a desk into a different corner of the space. And it's we're all making the best out of it. And but it's that weird thing that happens when you're off on your own and you're trying to make sure that you are keeping in the loop, right? And so that distance is hard, but it's a leveling thing as well, because we're all having it. So that was one of the challenges for me.
I think on that note, actually, when this first happened, we had a natural tendency to want to try to really continuously connect all the time. And it got kind of crazy that first month. It was like, I felt I was on Zoom for like 12 hours a day for work. And then a couple hours afterwards for personal. And it was actually really difficult because it's like you're just glued to your screen. And there was definitely a moment where the balance was off and trying to keep super connected and not having just like, I think, too many meetings, and learning to dial back on that and sort of create the space within certain meetings to have that connection, because we are in different places. Even when people are at the lab and joining Zoom meetings, they go to separate rooms. So yeah, to dial in, so they're truly separated even if they're on site. So that was a balance to try to work through.
Very good. Thank you for sharing all of those. It's amazing. Question 3. Wherever there are challenges, there are opportunities. What opportunities have you discovered during this time?
Well, I'll go first. I think, I don't know that there will ever be another time in my life that I have this kind of concentrated family time. As much as it's a challenge to manage both, it's probably a very unique time. I think I've been reading some of these articles about how kids in junior high are really enjoying some reprieve from the social pressures. My kids are a little bit, I think, more independent than they were previously. So I think there's been some good things happening on the personal front there. Business-wise, I don't want to sound like I'm profiteering off a pandemic, but some things have changed for business as well. We had a very funny situation where I posted on LinkedIn that we would be happy to make our antibody discovery platform available for people who are working on a COVID-19 response. And then my CEO liked that message and he posted on top of it and said, and it'll be free. So we had quite a bit in those first couple weeks of interest for researchers who wanted to find neutralizing antibodies. And that was exciting, and we were able to work with a lot of partners that maybe we wouldn't have otherwise, right? So it was building a bridge with places that maybe we wouldn't have been in touch with before. The other thing I found is that the academic cycle for doing a deal where you give access to PIs at a medical center, it's a pretty long cycle. And during this time, I think a lot of the researchers that really would prefer to be in the lab were stuck kind of doing more paperwork and desk work and thinking about what they want to do when they can get back into the lab. So the part of my pipeline for people who are interested in working with the platforms skewed towards academia more so than it ever has before. And we've been able to form more relationships with academics at a more concentrated time frame. So that's kind of exciting too.
Very good.
Yeah, we managed to write some papers, which is great. Also read a lot of papers. Really took advantage of that time as well.
Yeah, and I think for us, it was it got really hard, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, to source certain reagents or to know which CROs would be able to move a project forward. So I could kind of speak to the fact that I know Vanessa touched on this a little bit about terms of just outsourcing with people that you wouldn't normally outsource with, but it really has been an opportunity to try out new CROs that we normally wouldn't go to, and sometimes doing even redundant projects, doing the same initiating the same project with multiple CROs and kind of testing things out. And we have projects going on in India, China, and California, all basically the same project, but trying out new CROs kind of head to head, just to see who could get the project started, because most of them at the beginning of the pandemic didn't know what the impact would be. They're happy to initiate and to try it, but the timelines are very vague. And so for us, it was the opportunity to really just to try new things, and maybe either new CROs or new reagents or a new model system, because that's the one that's available and the one we normally use wasn't.
We're seeing a bit of that too. We have some of our partners who are 100% used to working in-house only, but now that they've experienced this situation and are thinking, okay, what else is going to happen in the future? They're thinking about partnering with us for some services as well, because they want to make sure they have contingency plans in place for the future. So.
Yeah, and on the note of, oh, sorry.
You can go ahead.
CROs, I was going to say that it's actually, I think having something in common outside of work to comment on when you're first in your meetings, COVID, now you're dealing with the neighborhood, it's created for much deeper connections with everyone that I'm working with, like on a personal level, so it doesn't go straight to the science. So that's been a very nice, positive outcome.
Having the kids walk through the background and help them with their their iPad login in the middle of, I mean, what otherwise would be really serious, it tends to break down some barriers.
And in some ways, you're meeting with people in their homes. I mean, you see my mantle behind me, but it's a much more intimate environment than a conference room, I feel like. And I think there's this opportunity for flexibility, for understanding, and a little extra kindness for kind of understanding these kids yelling in the background or dogs barking, or my husband's been tearing up my backyard, so I've had to deal with construction noise. That's his pandemic project. But I think there is there's an opportunity to connect on a deeper level and a more intimate level with people that have normally been kept on a pretty professional level previously. I definitely agree.
Yeah, and that's true internally as well. I think I've definitely gotten to know my colleagues a lot better.
Yeah. So Antibody Solutions has been fully operational during this time, and we found the opportunity to support other businesses who have not been operational to keep their projects moving forward. So existing and current clients have outsourced antibody discovery campaigns that would be normally done at their own facilities and brought them to us. And we've also done additional work such as antibody production, purifications, and characterization. It's also given us more time to focus on in-house research and development. We've become involved in work that we don't usually do, but we saw an opportunity to contribute to research regarding COVID. Internal research was already planned for this year, but we've pivoted our targets to COVID-related projects as a way to collaborate with our peers in the industry. And we were able to collaborate with single cell technology on a paper that was published in May. So that was good news. And our team is advancing a range of other SARS-CoV-2 research initiatives, both on our own and with clients to pursue vaccines and antibody therapies.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone have anything they would like to add? We can move on to question 4. We touched a little bit on it because we just can't help it, but we are women and we are in bio, and there are experiences that are unique to us. Most of us probably don't have wives yet. How do you and how have you come to manage the unimaginable and the seemingly impossible?
I don't cook, but I didn't actually do that very much to begin with. I'm lucky that I have a really supportive partner who manages quite a bit around the house. I mean, if anything, I've been more productive during this time because oftentimes I would travel into Cambridge and have a series of meetings, but you know, there's no commute time now, so it's just constant. So the productivity there has been, on one hand, great, and on the other hand, really a challenge because it's just really hard to put it down. I also had to really get up to speed on how to figure out how to give my kids permission to use different apps on their iPad. I'm just not technical, really. And then when they want the permission, it's usually like they're walking in while I'm on a meeting saying like, can you approve that app? Can you approve that app? And it's just, that's been a real challenge, is to try to how to manage all the technology. One of the things that's kind of helped manage, I think, some of the cohesiveness in the company is we do team meetings. We get all like 32 of us on the Zoom a couple times a week, and that's been super helpful. I mean, you know, I'm probably not the poster child for balance. I've had a lot of like 7-minute peanut butter sandwiches at, you know, 1:30 in the afternoon. So I'll gladly pass the baton on to someone.
Yeah, I think that I think it has been incredibly difficult to for me, it's the distance has been hard, at least, especially in the beginning, in managing my team remotely. Most of them are there. They're there for long hours. So I really hear what Heather's saying about being always on. Because they're coming in for early shifts, mid shifts, late shifts, they're coming in on the weekends. They ping me for support or even with just results I want to see. So even if it's not something where they're asking something for me, they're posting something that I'm interested in, work related, and I want to get on. And there is just a feeling of just being always on. And I felt that very strongly. And I've had to make some boundaries and some time where I just have to shut things off and turn off Teams on my phone, shut my laptop and walk away for at least a certain period of time to focus on family and other things. And there is this merging of work and family now that I'm working from home and my kids are home. My husband is home. He's also working from home. And it seems like it all gets blended. And for me, there's been some needs to just kind of redefine boundaries so that they're not all blended, that there are times when I just need to focus on work, and that the kids know that once I get done with this block, I will be available for a short period of time to them. And if they know that I'm going to be available, then it makes it easier for them to hold off on their questions, versus if it just seems to them like I'm going for forever, they might as well interrupt, right? So I think it's also just establishing a little bit of a schedule and a routine for the family as a whole, but also to kind of segregate school and work and family life back out, even while we're doing this all from home.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Kat. When working from home, the typical workday starts as early or ends as late as needed, since it's easy to just keep working since you're already at work. So I have my work email on my phone, obviously, and I'm immediately notified. And if I receive it within the work week, I like to respond as soon as I can, just because my response is crucial to the lab or a client. And going back to my daughter, who's 4 years old, we've been carving out specific blocks of time throughout the day where I'm focusing just on work while my daughter focuses on her activities. Be it like, she's been really into Cosmic Kids yoga. So she'll do yoga for a block and then belt out Frozen 2 for a huge block. So sometimes it's hard to concentrate. But when the shelter in place first started, the schools weren't really prepared in the spring for the distance and the e-learning. So we had to supplement her classwork with other activities, and those were her favorite. And I'm really nervous about school starting next month. Because that'll be like a new challenge to work with, the new normal. So
yeah, I mean, it's a whole nother follow-up. But we just found out in our town that in Massachusetts they pushed back the start of school for another 2 weeks because they need more time to prepare, which is understandable. And that full time going back is only actually 3.5 hours in the building with no buses. So I don't know. I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, here in the Bay Area, we're going to be 100% distance learning, at least to start off the school year. I think that's true for most places in California. There's very few places that are going to meet Governor Newsom's standards he set for actually opening in-person school. In some ways, it's nice to know that now for being able to prepare that that's what we're going into. But yeah, I still have a little bit of PTSD from the spring.
Yeah, my husband is an immunologist, and he's like, it'll just be fits and starts. And so I was really brave, and I sent my daughter to a school-run summer camp, and she went for all of 3 days, and 6 days later started having cold symptoms. And it turned out it's just a cold, but it's a germ, right? And it's a germ that you can pick up. And so if she picked up that, then obviously she could pick up anything else. I think it's going to be really challenging.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Question 5. How are each of you keeping up with your teams? We talked a little bit, but I always want to hear stories. And keeping morale up, maintaining contact and communication. Any tips? Any stories?
Judy, just one quick thing I wanted to add. We are
Sure.
at 55. Just giving you kind of like a warning.
Oh, okay.
Kind of thing. So.
Thanks so much, Divya.
Well, we've done, I mean, obviously Zoom meetings are the primary way that we're really connecting. But I've taken advantage of that to try to turn it into some fun events as well for the team. So we pretty much are having team lunch. I just get DoorDash certificates and mail them out, and we just share lunch together. Also created a trivia and Pictionary days. So again, taking advantage of some of the functions on Zoom, so we can just hang out and just do stuff as a team. And actually we have an upcoming one where we're doing escape rooms, virtual escape rooms together. So just as a way to connect and interact and not necessarily have it be about work. And you know, those events are normal. It's nice to be able to celebrate as a team, to get to know each other better as a team. I've noticed some questions in the chat about how to integrate someone new when they've come on board, when it's virtual. And I'm lucky that I haven't had anyone join during this time, but actually one of the people on my team joined right at the beginning of the year. So these sorts of interactions, because there was only 2 months really, or 2.5 months of getting to know someone in person, it's not really you know, a whole lot of time. So I think having these sorts of events has been really helpful. And then the company itself has instituted Slack. So now there's all these channels for different things. So people go on and share their pictures of their cats or their dogs or book club or whatever else, just to, you know, create points of connection to hopefully help.
Great.
Similarly, you know, we're doing those same kind of things. I think, you know, on the business level, in terms of connecting and remaining cohesive, I think for us adopting Microsoft Teams, which is something we've always had available to us, but something that we just never used inside Teneo Bio, and our team adopted it right away. I see the Microsoft Teams chat as kind of being the equivalent to sticking your head in my office, you know, and asking a quick question, and trying to convince my team that I'm completely available. Like, I may not answer you right away if I'm on a meeting, but I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And that's the fastest way to have a back and forth with me. I think that's been incredibly valuable. In addition to either the Teams video chats or Zoom meetings. We're doing a lot more in Teams than we are in Zoom, unless we have outside people coming in. But on the other side of things, to make things fun, we have a great operations team at Teneo Bio that's been organizing virtual happy hours for just all hands type of things. We've also done that as part of after our discovery team meetings, is to stay in on an extra half an hour to chat. You know, maybe that's a happy hour, maybe it's just a catching up or looking at pictures of people's pets. You know, but just finding ways to connect that way. These Zoom game nights have been a lot of fun, where people have logged in, you know, like Wednesday evenings and are playing games. And then we're trying this week, actually tomorrow, my discovery team is going to be doing their first socially distanced group lunch, and we're going to do it outside. Everybody's bringing a chair. We've got catered box lunches coming in, and we're all going to sit 6 feet apart and be outdoors and try to have our first face-to-face group lunch. So we'll see how that goes, but hopefully that'll be really good.
Sweet.
We did these meetings. I mentioned the all hands meetings, they were called. We were doing this before the pandemic, but our leadership is really big on doing things together that enrich us and help us to kind of apply things to different parts of our life. So we have assigned reading, we have a book club. And so every 6 weeks or so, we have a book club discussion. We have all the typical things, you know, that companies have. We have journal club discussions, lots of opportunities for people to see what different people are doing in the organization. I think it's still happening. I haven't been able to join it a bit, but there is a Friday night Zoom happy hour. And I will share that I did join the Zoom happy hour once and found myself in a Zoom room full of a bunch of drunk people from Hamburg who had bombed our happy hour Zoom. And so we hung out with them for a while. It was yeah, I mean, it's a new world for sure.
Very good. All right. Well, how are we doing time-wise? Are we getting ready? Are there questions that people want to ask now of our panel before we break out?
If you guys are open to that before we head into breakout sessions, I think that's a great idea to take 1 or 2 maybe real quick.
Yeah.
And at this time, ladies, please feel free to unmute yourself and to share your video so that we can see who's asking the question.
I'll start. I'm Heidi LeBlanc. Actually, I guess I've got my camera closed. You know, our company is actually hiring quite a bit, even during the shelter in place. And so I'm starting to have more and more colleagues I've never met in person. And so there's the dual challenge of having the company grow, but also grow without being able to meet people. And so I'm just wondering if any of you have encountered that, and you know, what kind of tips you have to help integrate people you haven't met.
Mm.
So we do this thing where we're all encouraged to kind of reach out and have little Zoom sessions with new hires. So people I probably would ordinarily maybe bump into in the kitchen, but not really have a lot of cross-functional experience with, like an RA working in our analytics group or something. So it's really nice to get to know people and have a dedicated time to meet them and greet them when they first start, which maybe wouldn't happen organically for a bit. So that's been good.
Yeah, we actually have, as part of our culture club, whenever we do have a new hire, there's actually a buddy system. So there's someone actually outside of your department who ends up becoming your buddy to help you navigate through everything, and, you know, go for lunch and just have somebody there that you are getting to know. So that's continued, obviously through Zoom, so it's not quite the same, but that's continued.
Great. Are there any other questions? Are we turning into breakout room people now? Should I thank my panel?
Yes, I think we're gonna move into breakout rooms shortly.
Okay, great. I thank you, panel. You've been great. I wish we were close, breathing each other's respiratory secretions just like the old days. But here we are. Thank you for the time and the energy and everything that you brought. So I also want to thank Women in Bio. This was a great opportunity for us. And I want to thank everyone who tuned in today. I hope you learned something, or, you know, just were happier for a few minutes. Women in Bio is all about being heard, and women working in science. These women that are here today, they're being heard. We all understand, as women working in sciences, the importance of quality and affordable education and healthcare. And we all know how important it is to be heard. So I just have to say this because it's me. Vote this year. And before we go to the breakout room, which I understand I won't be able to say goodbye to everybody, I just want to say, as we leave tonight, remember, masks on, tits up. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Judy.
Thanks, Judy.
Judy, I think that was a great wrap up. Just two quick notes before Lee breaks us out into breakout rooms. One, if you are interested in a panel discussion on inclusion and diversity, there is an Executive Women in Bio hosting a panel on August 5th. I put in a link somewhere in the chat thread, but if not, you can also find it on the WIB website. Again, thanks to our awesome panelists. This was amazing. Now, for everyone, remember to turn back your videos on now as Lee breaks us into breakout rooms, and hopefully we can have more discussions on that.